गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। नमामि गौडपादं च शङ्करं श्रीसुरेश्वरं स्वामिनं सच्चिदानन्दमिन्द्रं तं ज्ञानरूपिणे। ॐ ॐ नारायण 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 नारायण। So today is Sugama. अध्यासे वादि विप्रतिपत्तयः. Adhyasa definition he asked in the Bhashya itself. He asked what is Adhyasa. Koyam Adhyaso Nama. First Shankaracharya gave that it is seeing something differently, seeing a thing something differently. In short, it is a misunderstanding. Understanding is as it is. Miss means differently. It's as simple as this. Understanding as it is satyam, is knowledge. You understand it differently, different from what it really is. That is simply misunderstanding, mistaking it. Okay. So when he asked, this is the definition. So in this definition, in order to, now there are two kinds of mistakes or adhyasa. One is the worldly instance of adhyasa. Another is this adhyatmika adhyasa. Samsara adhyasa, adhyatmika adhyasa. So in order to cover both the adhyasas in one definition, Shankaracharya used smriti rupaha purvadrishtaha, these two adjectives also. So smriti rupaha means these two words generally apply to the worldly instance of adhyasa. Therefore, let us take worldly instance of adhyasa alone and try to see how these two adjectives are necessary, and they help you to understand it clearly. Smriti rupaha, as if it is remembered. Idea is it is not in front of you, as if it is remembered. Second is purvadrishta. It is you are not directly perceiving it. It appears as if seen before. Because it is not, you are not perceiving what is in front of you. Yet you see that it is here. So this is an adhyasa, this is a mistake. Okay. After explaining this, he told there are different names used in Shankara Bhashya. Adhyasa, adhyaropa, bhranti, mithya jnanam, mithya buddhi, all these are synonymous. Because some people taking this mithya jnanam word differently, they explained differently. But here Swamiji, having done Prasthanatrayi Bhashya Parayanam throughout his life, for maybe 50-60 years he did, and he just memorized the complete Shankara Bhashya, Prasthanatrayi Bhashya. So he knows every word where any word is. Same word occurs where in all Prasthanatrayi Bhashya he knows. So out of his experience he told, Mithya Jnanam, Mithya Pratyaya, Mithya Buddhi are synonymous with Adhyasa. Now coming to the next. Shankaracharya is quoting certain explanations of adhyasa of others. Now today's topic. Okay, this is what yesterday's previous class. Now today's talk, Vadi Vipratipattyayaha. Philosophers have different opinion regarding adhyasa. See, regarding mistake nobody has dispute. See, this is one important. This is what Shankaracharya wants to say. Simply mistaking one thing as something different is common to all. All the schools of philosophy, all the philosophers on the earth, or even a common man for that matter, everybody agree in one thing. uh, that understanding something as different from what it is, this is this is commonly agreed aspect of adhyasa. But where they differ certain area. So Shankaracharya quotes three explanations of adhyasa. All these three explanations, I think I proceed with the text because Swamiji himself is going to discuss elaborately about them. Now what I am going to say will be the same. So why repetition? I'll directly proceed with the text only. Okay, so what only the intention of Shankaracharya is his own definition. That Shankaracharya definition is a universal experience of all people and also commonly accepted by all schools of philosophy. This is what Shankaracharya wants to say, because the other details are unnecessary. But post Shankarites, the commentators went into those details. They were discussing the process of adhyasa, and what you say, the nature of adhyasa, the process of adhyasa, all that, the production of adhyasa, all this they were going into details, which itself in fact is unwarranted. That itself is a real mistake. Anyway, that we will discuss here. We have to just to go by your anubhava. In your during mistake, you just don't know. During mistake, you don't know that it is a mistake. Anything you see, for example, when you mistake rope for snake, you don't think that it is a mistake. You really think it is real. Only after the light is brought and the rope is understood, then only you say that, oh, it was a mistake, snake was a mistake, it didn't exist. Now, after the adhyasa is corrected, the misunderstanding is corrected, how it happened, people started giving explanation. Even this giving explanation this explanation applies to worldly instances alone. Worldly instances, they are trying to give explanations, and I think it looks unnecessary, because nobody tries to see that how that mistake happened and all that. Okay, because mistake is a mistake. And they think that they are explaining the adhyasa, one thing. Second thing is that explanations, all those explanations they give apply to worldly instances alone. This Atma Adhyasa, no explanation can be given, because we find in Adhyasa, that's all. That is the only explanation you can give. That is the only thing that is really found, because as long as you are in Adhyasa, you see that you are in Adhyasa, that's all. You see that the body, mind and sense organs world is appearing. And once you understand the truth, all this gets corrected. This is the simple thing. Therefore, Shankaracharya doesn't enter into these too many unnecessary explanations, which are incomplete explanations, disputable explanations. See, I repeat it, incomplete explanations. Incomplete means it doesn't convince anybody. Second thing is, it is incomplete because these explanations are developed seeing the worldly instances. Seeing the worldly instances of misunderstandings, they have developed these explanations and try to extend that explanation to the Atma Adhyasa. The here itself is a totally wrong. So this and these explanations also, each one gives that explanation differently. Each one gives the adhyasa explanation differently, because they are looking from different angles. So here Shankaracharya says, we don't go into these controversial, multiple explanations, each one differing from other, and neither we go into them nor it is required here. Because Shankaracharya at the end he says, first he gives three definitions. He shows how these people say. Some people say it like this, some people say like this, some people say like this. Three groups, three schools of definitions he gives, three definitions, that means three philosophers. And at the end he says, okay, whatever their explanations may be, one thing is common. You misunderstanding one thing as something else. This is a common to all. Therefore, my definition is commonly agreed and indisputable. Come on, let us proceed. This is what Shankaracharya says. He is not going into other details. Because universal experience has to be touched. And another thing, what is universal doesn't become a matter of controversy. When you take one side explanation, limited explanation, a limited standpoint, the other person takes another standpoint, then the dispute begins. Shankaracharya never takes those limited partial explanations and also multiple explanations. He just goes by Anubhava. What is there in everybody's Anubhava. Therefore, people think that Shankaracharya is a philosopher. Abba. You know, philosopher means what? In the modern sense. In the modern sense, or generally what people these days also think is, there is a phenomenon, I tell you. There is a phenomenon that you see. Why it happens, how it happens. Why it happens when you ask, you give some explanation. This giving this explanation, visibly it is something, and it looks very curious, very, what you say, mysterious. A phenomenon looks curious, strange and mysterious. And you wonder why it happens, and you would not know. And some people come with an explanation. That explanation, in that explanation they give some logic and give that explanation. So another person gives another explanation. Most of these explanations are logical speculations. Okay? Speculation means kalpanas. Because of these things it happened it. But that explanation you give, is it in everybody's Anubhava? Can everybody verify and see? No, you can't verify. When you can't verify, then what do you call it? It is an explanation. Means it is a speculation. You imagine and give an imaginary explanation. This is called modern day philosophy. Philosophers generally give an explanations, logical explanations. Logical means imagination, imaginary explanations. Probably this could be like that, this could be. Most of them are probabilities alone. They imagine that probably it could be like this, probably it could be like this, probably it could be like this. Now if one fellow has got one speculation, another philosopher has another speculation, another speculation. Now people say this is philosophy, India is developing, world is developing, oh philosophers are great, they help us to understand. That's why somebody told, after studying Western philosophy, I don't remember exactly which philosopher said it. He gave very negative comment on all these Western philosophies. You know what he said? Philosopher is a person who is searching for a black rat in darkness. Note it, black rat, rats are generally black, rarely few you find white also. So searching for a black rat in darkness where it is not there. What an explanation, see. Philosopher is a one who is searching for a black rat in darkness, pitch darkness, where it is not there. This really applies to Western philosophy. Each one gives his own explanation. We call them armchair philosophy. That means you sit quietly. It is not a matter of your sadhana. It is not a matter of your anubhava. It is just his explanation. So, and that explanation goes by his name, his philosophy. Another fellow comes up with, after reading those philosophies, I thought it is utter foolishness to call them philosophers. It is utter foolishness on our part to read them. Because, see, I used a very harsh expression. I give you my explanation. For my harsh comment, I am giving you my explanation. Why did I call them foolish? Why did I call our reading their explanations foolish? Because we can have our own explanation. Each fellow can have 100 explanations. I tell you, I myself can become 2 or 3 philosophers. When each one can give his own explanation, so why listen to others one? You talk to your friends, each one gives one explanation. This is philosophy. Why read them and call them great and we are small? Everybody is a philosopher. For wild imagination, a person like me who has got a plenty of wild imaginations, I myself can become 5 to 10 philosophers within me. The same phenomena I can explain 5 different ways. So I can become 5 philosophers. All are all are confusions, all are partial, all are imaginations. Okay. Now we don't want to go into the details. Shankaracharya doesn't go into them because Shankaracharya is not a philosopher. Philosopher means speculation. People think that Shankaracharya is a great philosopher. First, he is not a philosopher. Philosophy means speculated explanations, kalpita, imaginary explanations. Shankara doesn't give any imaginary explanation. First you note it. Then what is Shankara doing? Shankara is simply explaining Shruti Pramana. Okay, this you note it. Shankaracharya throughout is telling clearly, this is Shankara's philosophy, Shankara's philosophy. There was one sannyasi with me. It would irritate me. All the time Shankara's philosophy, Shankara's philosophy. Every step he would talk, every sentence almost with every sentence Shankara's philosophy. We were brahmacharis and he was a senior in the sense he was young of my age, but he already took sannyasa. So he would say Shankara philosophy. I say, where is philosophy? Shankara is talking of pramana. See, you open your eyes and see the object. Where is philosophy here? Open your eyes and see the fact as it is. Shankara is using pramana, Shruti pramana. Shankara is helping you how you can understand Shruti. Shruti is revealing a fact. Okay? Note this. Shruti is a pramanam. It is revealing a truth about you, truth about the world. It is revealing an absolute truth. It is not giving any imagination. It is not giving an opinion of somebody. Okay? Shruti is not giving an opinion. Shruti is like a light. What does the light do? Does the light give you jnanam? Light only simply illumines. Light only points out. You just happen to see. That's all. You turn your attention on the thing and you just get to see it. Similarly, Shruti is just turning your attention towards the truth. And Shankara is helping you to understand the Shruti sentences, what it exactly implies, how Shruti is pointing out. We have our own understandings. We as all the jivas have certain common misunderstandings. You may have a few individual weaknesses, leave them. We are not touching the individual problems, individual weaknesses. Universal jiva. All jivas have universally one problem. Okay. All jivas take body, mind and sense organs to be themselves. All jivas take themselves to be karta, bhokta, jiva. All jivas have got jagrat, swapna, sushupti, anubhava. So these are all universal experience. Shankara is touching this universal experience as Upanishad is also doing, and by pointing out, by analyzing the universal experiences of all jivas, he shows the universal experiences. Analyze them. Analyze means watch them, investigate into them, observe them. In observing them, you go to the common basis of all the experiences. I find a universal truth, absolute truth. It is already there in you. And Upanishad is trying to point out. Shankara is helping you in understanding the Upanishadic method, Upanishadic vision. Okay? Upanishadic vision is jnanam, and Upanishadic teaching is a way of explaining, is a method of explaining, it is a prakriya. Shankara is unfolding the Upanishadic prakriya so that you can come to discover the Upanishadic vision about yourself. Two things. Upanishadic vision is a tatparya. Prakriya is a method of unfolding, method of investigating. Unfolding means what? No speculation involved. Method of observing your own experiences, investigating them and arrive at the vision. This is what is prakriya. Now tell me, where is philosophy here? Shankara is helping you to understand the Shruti Pramana. And people say Shankara philosophy, we have gone mad. The Western influence has become more than we can swallow. We have become so much westernized, including philosophers, sannyasis. Whoever speaks English talks of philosophy. The word uses, first thing is drop this philosophy. This word itself is a dirty word. Okay? We don't call Shankara as a philosophy. First thing is philosophy itself is a useless word. Vedanta, we mean Shruti Pramana is Vedanta, that's all. Vedanta means what? Veda Anta means a last portion of the Veda we are studying, we are using it to understand our life and the truth. How to become free from samsara. We are in samsara. That means we have got a certain misunderstanding about ourselves. That misunderstanding has given rise to samsara, and we are helping ourselves to come out of samsara and understand ourselves rightly. To understand you rightly, Shruti is a pramana. Pramana means it is teaching you, it is revealing you. And Shankara is helping you how to understand Shruti. Shankara is a guru. He is helping you to understand Shruti Pramana. He is not speculating anything. He is not giving any logical explanation. Shankara doesn't use any logic of his own. He doesn't offer any explanation. So therefore Shankara has been humble, and he tells clearly, Shankara is, don't call Shankara philosophy, it is Upanishadic philosophy. And Shankara is only assisting Upanishadic philosophy. Shankara is doing a Upanishadic seva. He is doing a seva to Upanishads. Through the Upanishad, he is helping us to understand the Upanishadic standpoint. That's all. Shankara is helping common man. Shankara is helping a Jignasu, not common man, let us say Jignasu. Shankara is helping a Jignasu, sadhaka to understand the Upanishad so that you become liberated. That's all. Where is the question of philosophy, explanation and all that? Therefore, Shankara goes by universal experiences which are indisputable. So other people start giving logical explanations to prove something. That means logic is the only basis for their proof. They construct logical argument by argument and say therefore so and so. Why therefore? Therefore, when you say therefore, on what basis? Therefore you say based upon your own arguments. Because it must be there. If it is not there, it was like this, it should be like this, it must be like this. If it were there, it must be like this, must be like this, therefore this must be. These are all these are all speculations. Shankara never does anything. He points out, pointing out. Only just you have to look at your Anubhava. Shankaracharya is pointing out. Here you can see what is Adhyasa. Shankara is not giving his own personal explanation. He is showing you what is Adhyasa in my life, my life, everybody's life. You mistake one thing as something different from what it is. Okay, when you are seeing something as different from what it is, you don't see as it is. You see something different from what it is. This is what is Adhyasa. Where is the question of dispute? Where is the question of arguing? It is a universal, it is just pointing out. That's all. He is simply pointing out. Now, some other philosophers have their own explanations. Now he is quoting 3 explanations broadly. They include all the philosophy, all the philosophers' explanation. He is taking these 3. Now we are proceeding with that. He takes these explanations and says that they may have their own different views, but in and through all these explanations, there is one underlying common explanation. What is it? Mistake one thing for something else. Okay. This common explanation is what I agree with. Remaining, I leave it to themselves. What speculations they make, let them have. Okay. This is what Shankara simply says. Therefore, Shankara is directly Acharya. He is a guru, not a philosopher. Okay. Shankara's philosophy don't call. Shankara's it is Upanishadic philosophy. Philosophy, in fact, it is not philosophy. Upanishad is not a building up, constructing a concept by logically arguing. Shankara is not, Upanishad is not building up, constructing a concept, a theory with the help of the logic. Upanishad is a pramanam. Pramanam is pointing out a truth in your life, in my life, and everybody's life. It is a universal truth. It is just pointing out. If you see where it is pointing out, you just see what it means. That's all. Therefore, it is not Shankara's philosophy, it is Upanishadic philosophy. Shankara is only helping us to understand what Upanishad means. That's all. Shankara learned from his Guru and is teaching our Guru. We say in Shankara Jayanti, this is the point we have to learn. Okay. Therefore, I told Shankara Jayanti is not one day, every day we celebrate Shankara Jayanti only. Every day we talk of Shankaracharya's, his teaching is nothing but Upanishadic teaching. Upanishadic teaching is nothing but universal experience, your experience, my experience. If you say Shankara's philosophy, it means Upanishadic philosophy. It means your philosophy, my philosophy. See, Adhyasa is in everybody's experience. Tell me whose philosophy is it? It is everybody's philosophy. Therefore, if you want to use the word philosophy, okay, let us say Shankara's philosophy is Upanishadic philosophy. Upanishadic philosophy is everybody's philosophy. Now tell me, what is Shankara's philosophy? It is in everybody's philosophy. There is waking, there is dream, there is deep sleep. Now whose philosophy? Everybody's philosophy. Therefore, calling it Shankara's philosophy is a misnomer. Shankara is only helping us to understand Upanishads. Upanishad is a pramana, not building up a theory with the help of speculation. You never see any theory in Upanishads. Upanishads never build up a theory. Okay, there is no theory. Philosophers build up theories. Philosophers build up theories by logic, by arguing they build up. So Upanishad is never building up a theory. It is just pointing out the facts. And you look at it. That's all. Upanishad is pramanam. Okay. Now, during his explanation of Upanishadic teaching, in between he quotes. See, he is quoting Shankaracharya now. It is not a exact quotation. These are all prevalent ideas. Shankara is referring. Instead of quoting, let us say he is referring to those three ideas. And he says that my explanation of Adhyasa is universally found in common man, in everybody's life, and also philosophers also agree. Where they differ, we leave it to them. I am not going into the, Shankaracharya says, I am not going into their differing points about Adhyasa. Their varying and differing explanations. So, the varying explanations of Adhyasa, the differing points of their Adhyasa, all that we leave it to them, because we are not philosophers going to argue with them. Shankara clearly says, I am neither a philosopher, I am not going to argue with them whether right or wrong or agree or disagree. We leave it to them. We see a universal point underlying in all their explanations, which is commonly found in everybody's experience. Okay, now let us say, Adhyase Vadi Vipratipattayaha. There are Vipratipattis, that means differences of opinion or different explanations among the philosophers regarding Adhyasa. Tam Kechidityadina Matabhedanam Kathanam Swabhiprayasya Sarvatantra Siddhantatva Vishkaranartham. Swamiji gives this warning right in the beginning. How people miss it, see. Why is he referring the different views of other schools regarding Adhyasa? He is referring to them not to dispute, not to agree or disagree and all those things, only to show underlying in all their explanations. There is one common explanation which all of them agree. Even they don't dispute. They dispute at one point. But there is one indisputable point underlying in all their explanation, and that is my explanation also. And it is your and my anubhava also. Therefore, Swabhiprayasya, his own explanation, is acceptable and universal anubhava of all. This is what Shankara's intention. Now, while reading those explanations, how much attention you pay? Where exactly you must pay attention? Don't go into other details. Unnecessary detail. Pay Shankara's attention. See only at that aspect, which is a commonly agreed universal explanation. Okay. Now, tam kechit anyatra anyadharmadhyasaha iti vadanti. This is the Bhashya statement. Bhashyakara is referring to first group of people's explanation, that anyatra anyadharma adhyasaha. What Shankara told, let us contrast. When you look at a thing, you see it as different from what it is. You see it differently from what it is. That's all. Now here you say anyatra anyadharma adhyasa. There is one thing. Now their explanation, you see, slightly they are giving a how that explanation is. The nature of adhyasa they are explaining. Within the adhyasa, what are the elements involved? Adhyastha, adhisthana. Okay? Adhyastha, adhisthana, two things are there. Adhisthana is the main vastu. Adhyastha is how you misunderstand it. What is misunderstood and how you misunderstand. Two things, okay? What is misunderstood is rope. Misunderstanding as what? As a snake. That is, what is misunderstood and how you misunderstand. How is not process, okay? How you misunderstand, when I say, I don't mean process of misunderstanding. How means how you misunderstand. This sentence means as what you misunderstand. You misunderstand something as what? ಒಂದನ್ನು ಏನಾಗಿ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಿ. ಒಂದನ್ನು ಏನಾಗಿ, ಹಗ್ಗವನ್ನು ಹಾವಾಗಿ, ಟೇಕ್ ದ ರೋಪ್ ಆಸ್ ಎ ಸ್ನೇಕ್. ತಾಡುನು ಪಾಮುಗ, ದೇನಿಗ ಅಂದರೆ ಯಾವದಾಗಿ. ಅಂದರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಮಿಸ್ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟುಡ್ ಆಸ್ ವಾಟ್. ಓನ್ಲಿ ಟೂ ಥಿಂಗ್, ಅಧಿಷ್ಠಾನ ಅಧ್ಯಸ್ಥ. ಓಕೆ, these regarding adhisthana adhyastha, they have got a different explanation. In fact, they are thinking that it looks very, very, very funny, very strange way their explanation. They are trying to combine adhisthana adhyastha. Their explanation looks very strange because adhyastha adhisthana they are taking as two things, and they are explaining these two things, the combination of them they are trying to explain. Does it make adhyasa? They are trying to explain like that. It looks so strange. Adhisthana, adhyastha, they are taking these two, how they are combined. In what manner they are combined. That manner of combination is, they are calling adhyasa. I don't know, some philosophers, I tell you, sometimes you see the philosophers, it looks so strange. Not only strange, sometimes it looks funny and foolish, and sometimes you feel like abusing them also. Oh, so not only foolish, you feel like calling them idiots also, because they just go somewhere irrelevant, meaningless and nonsense, and the context is irrelevant and the meaning is irrelevant, and why they are giving explanations also looks foolish sometimes. But anyway, we are not going into details. As I told here, see how he explains. Anyatra anyadharma adhyasa means anyatra is one place. Sanskrit anya means one. Okay, anya can be, the word anya can mean two things. Anya is one, anya is another. Okay, one and another. In English we call them one and another. In Sanskrit, anya, anya. Same word twice is repeated. Anyonya we call them. Anyonya, paraspara. What does it mean? Anyaha, anya. Anya is one, second anya means another. First anya means one another, one taken as another, anyaha anya, like that. So therefore, anyat anyatra anyadharma adhyasaha, on one thing you impose the quality of belonging to another object. Quality or property of another object you see an another object. That's all they mean, they explain. Okay, now this is a bhashya statement. Now on that Swamiji's explanation, let us see. Adhikaranam anyat, dharmastu anyaha. Thing is one, and the quality belongs to another object. Let us take directly an example alone, it becomes easy. Because our Indian, this is one more thing about Indian philosophers. All schools of philosophy, they always give ready-made examples. Illustration is the speciality of, they also may give Western philosophy, but rarely they give. In Indian schools, in all the darshanas, in all tattva shastras, they always give instantly, immediately one illustration. It becomes easy, any common man can understand easily. Now, let us take, one is a spatika. Spatika means a crystal. Crystal is known because we see them, the crystal beads, mala, crystal mala, spatika mala is common to us. These days, anywhere you can see them. A glass pieces also we are seeing them these days. artificial crystals. So crystal is one thing, adhikaranam. Then there is a flower by its side. Crystal is one object, flower is another object. Now the color of the flower, crystal is transparent, flower is a colored one. Vedantins always give Japa Kusuma. Japa Kusuma is hibiscus flower. Hibiscus because the color is red, dark red. Therefore it is easy to understand, it is a very dark red flower. Hibiscus flower has got a red color. Crystal has no color, it is transparent. Now we have the two things. Hibiscus has a color. When you bring them together, the color of the flower appears in the crystal. So the color actually belongs to flower. Though it belongs to flower, it appears to be belonging to, coming into crystal. Crystal looks red. That's all, simple. So anyatra anyadharma abhabhasaha iti vadanti, anyatra anyadharma adhyasaha. They explain adhikar color of the crystal appears, color of the flower appears in the crystal. They explain adhyasa is like this. Like this they explain. Adhikaranam anyatu. Swamiji's explanation I am reading and telling. Adhikaranam anyatu. Adhisthana is one. Dharmastu anya. Property belongs to another object. Adhikarana is another one. Okay. Tayor dharma dharminoho. This dharma and dharminoho mithaha sambandha abhavepi. Actually they are not related. They are not related in the sense there is no cause and effect relationship. A flower is not produced from crystal. Crystal is not produced from flower. If anyonya sambandha were there, that means if one is produced from the other, naturally the product will carry the color of the cause. Suppose if the mud is black, the pot made out of it will also be a black pot. If the mud is a red mud, red earth, red mud, kemmannu we call it in Kannada, erramannu. So in red mud, out of the red mud you make a pot. Pot also looks red because the pot which is a product carries the color of its cause, because the pot is produced from its cause, that is mud. So there is a relationship. A pot is related to mud. Once there is a relationship, then it is understandable that pot carries the color of its mud. But here, spatika and flower, they are not produced from one another. Neither spatika is made out of flower nor flower is made out of spatika. They are sambandha bhavepi. Each word we have to understand, because acharyas, when they use one word, even a one word, one letter, cha, tu, we call them tu, cha. Even they use tu, cha, it will not go waste. Tu is one letter, cha is another letter in Sanskrit. They have some meanings in Sanskrit. So, even that single letter will not be waste. They won't use it unnecessarily. When they use it, they mean it. They mean it. Because if you have no intention to use it, they won't use it. If they have no meaning to convey. Here, sambandha abhavepi. Therefore, each word you have to watch. This helps you when you are reading Shastras. When I am explaining, you watch. Those who keep the books in your hands, look at them. How every word I am explaining. This is how they wrote it. This is how they expect us to watch. You also, when you are reading by yourself, every word watch. Every word, don't skip any word. See, mithas sambandha bhavepi. Though there is no relationship between them, we just, okay, there is no relationship, we just go away. Relation means what? Relations means what? Every word should exactly flash in your mind. Then only you have understood it. Sambandha abhava means what? Sambandha means what kind of a sambandha? If generally karya karana sambandha, or one is a part of another. One is a part of another, or one is a product of another. This is sambandha. Now here, spatika and flower, there is no relationship means what? One is not born of another, one is not a part of another. They are two separate objects. Sambandha bhavepi. That means when they are two objects, sambandha kalpanam adhyasaha. Though there is no sambandha whatsoever, yet you create a sambandha. Okay. You just bring them together and one's color appears in another one. Oh. You just bring them together. In fact, you are not attaching them, touching them each other. One is not a product of another. One is not dependent on another. Two are separate. One is a spatika. Sometimes in some people's house, that what you call the paperweight, a transparent paperweight made of glass. I don't know, so spatika or something I see in somebody's house. Paperweight. And you put a flower nearby. There is no relationship. Just to bring them together. The spatika seems to reflect the color of flower. Oh. It is carrying the property of spatika. The property of flower is found in the spatika. This is adhyasa. So, sambandha bhavepi sambandha kalpanam adhyasaha iti te vadanti. This is what they give the explanation. Yatha. Now the same explanation is little more. Spatike japa kusumadi lauhityasya sambandha kalpanam. Japa kusuma hibiscus has a red color. Its color is reflected, is seen in the spatika. This is called sambandha kalpanam. Technically, how do you say? The property of flower appears as the property of spatika. One's property appears in another object. Okay, spatikasya hi swachha dravyatvat. Why it reflects? Because the nature of the spatika, nature of crystal is such that it is a transparent. Swachha dravyam means, in Sanskrit, swachha dravyam is transparent. Tatra sannidhi matrena. Swachha means colorless, transparent. So, sannidhi matrena, by just putting them together, sankrantam japa kusumadi lauhityam, the redness of the japa for flower, sankrantam. Sankranti means transferring. The flower appearing in the spatika. Sankrantam japa kusumadi lauhityam spatika dharma ityeva grunanti kechid avivekina. So when you see there, you think spatika has become red. Spatika has assumed redness, you think it. So this aviveka means unable to distinguish this. You think that by the vicinity, because of the vicinity of the flower, you come to see the spatika as red. Okay, this is adhyasa, they explain. Tadevam anyadharmasya anyasmin kalpanam adhyasaha iti tesham abhiprayaha. So their view is, their opinion is, one's dharma of one object appears as belonging to the another object. Okay, atra dharma grahanam upalakshanartam dharminopi. Okay, one thing appears as another, whether dharmi or dharma, transferring. Shukti rajatadi kalpanasyapi adhyasatvena ishtatvat. Now in this spatika example, in this flower and spatika illustration, only its property, dharma is transferred. Only the color is transferred, that is dharma. But he says, this explanation of adhyasa applies not only transferring the dharma, even transferring their identity also. Identity means dharmi is also taken, one dharmi becomes another's dharmi. How? He gives example of Shuktika Rajata, seashell and silver. Seashell appears as a silver, so one entity appears as another, and one's property appears as belonging to another. Athava anyasmin anyasya dharmasya arthantarasya kalpanam ityevam vyakheyam bhashyam. Anyasya anyadharmam. That's a simple explanation. Now the second explanation. First explanation is over. Okay. First philosopher has this explanation to give regarding what is adhyasa, how adhyasa takes place. They take adhyasa is an event. It takes place. It is a process. This is how they think. Shankara never says adhyasa an event that occurs. The event that occurs and there is a process to undergo. Shankara never talks of this event and a process. In fact, post Shankara is to do the same thing. If you leave Sachidanandendra Swamiji's Vedanta, listen to any Vedantini anywhere in India, whether Sanskrit or Kannada or English or any language, all international Swamis and everywhere, they all explain Adhyasa as a process, Adhyasa as an event. Okay. Among the Advaitins alone, it is Sachidanandendra Swamiji alone, by watching the Shankara Bhashya, he told that Adhyasa is not an occurrence, Adhyasa is not a process. Okay. Who says that? They ask, what is the difference between Sachidananda Swamiji and others? They say Sachidananda Swamiji something differently. What is that? We have been telling, people are not watching at all. Again and again ask the same question. See, this is the thing. This is the difference. They talk of Adhyasa as an event, as a occurrence, and also a process of Adhyasa. Sachidananda Swamiji, according to Shankara, or as explained by Shankara, Adhyasa is not an event. There is Adhyasa, Shankara says. There is Adhyasa, you find it, that's all. How it happened? There is no happening. You find it, not happening. How it occurred? Nowhere Shankara explained. Okay. How it occurred? By what process it occurred? No process for Adhyasa. No process, no occurrence. He only points out that there is already Adhyasa in you. Look at it. That's all. That's all. So this is the Sachidananda Swamiji's explanation of Adhyasa, and their explanation of Adhyasa is disputable. Therefore they keep on disputing. Swamiji says, other schools of philosophy, like all non-Advaitins, Vishistadvaitins, Dvaitins, and certain many others, whoever criticized Shankara, criticized means refuted. No, refutation is okay, acceptable, because that's how the philosophers do. It is their legitimate right, and we also accept them, we honor them for their views. Okay? So when they tried to refute Shankara's explanations, they never refer to directly Shankara Bhashya. This is very strange thing. This is what Swamiji always says. Directly Shankara statements they never quoted. They never paid attention. It seems it didn't catch their attention. Shankara's explanation of Adhyasa is different from the post-Shankarites' explanation of Adhyasa. And Swamiji says, this Shankara's explanation, direct explanation of Adhyasa, seems to have not caught the attention of them. They always took post-Shankarites' explanation of Adhyasa as Shankara's alone, and they started refuting. They say Adhyasa is an event post-Shankarites told. While explaining Shankara Bhashya, while commenting Adhyasa Bhashya, they explained Adhyasa as an event that has occurred. And also there is a process of Adhyasa. And there is a material, how the material transforms into. In fact, all Advaita thinks that, people think that Advaita means there is an avidya which transforms into world. There is an avidya which produces into the world, which modifies and becomes into the world. This explanation that there is a something called avidya sitting with Brahman and it is modifying to become the Brahman, this explanation, they thought that this is the right explanation of Shankara. They have offered their own explanation. But it is nowhere there. You see, Dvaitins and Vishishtadvaitins, Ramanuja and Ramanujacharya's followers, Madhva and Madhva's followers in their commentaries, they attacked this, the crux of the Advaitins, main point of the Advaitins, fundamental point. They told there is an avidya, a positive substance sitting with Brahman, sticking to Brahman, and that modifies into the world. They say, and this is the real explanation of Bhranti or Brahma. They say, you say what they say, all non-Advaitins together. In these things they are all one. When they are attacking Advaita, Shankara's Bhashya, Shankara's Vedanta, Shankara tradition, not Shankara Vedanta. In fact, they have not directly refuted Shankara Vedanta, Shankara Bhashya. They have refuted post-Shankarite commentaries on Bhashya. They have never referred Shankara Bhashya at all. Therefore, they have referred post-Shankarite explanation about Shankara Bhashya. There they say, in any Bhranti, any Brahma you take, do you see some substance modifying into something else? And they say this explanation of a Brahma is wrong. All the Dvaitins, Vishishtadvaitins, their followers, their commentators, their scholars, in all their volumes and volumes of Sanskrit books, they have been telling that Brahma, you are making it an event and explaining and all that. Such a thing never occurred. It is there in nobody's experience. They say it is in nobody's experience. Why are they explaining like that? Therefore, they attacked the main avidya, vidya alone, their main contention. Their main aim of attack is, main target was avidya, post-Shankarites avidya. And they never directly refer to Shankara Bhashyam. But Shankara is unaware of that so-called avidya, which adhyasa is an event and there is a material which transforms into world, transforms into Brahma. So Brahma is a product. What they made is, Brahma is a product. And there is a substance which modifies and becomes into that product. So they start explaining Brahma is a product. Now their contention is, Brahma is a simple misunderstanding, is a misunderstanding. It is a simple mithya pratyaya. Where is the question of substance, modification and product? Substance, modification, product. And they say these three are meaningless, we don't accept it. But Sachidananda Swamiji told, if you look at Bhashya directly, Shankara never touched these three. There is a material, there is a transformation, there is a product. He simply says, Adhyaso mithya pratyaya rupaha. Adhyasa is a simply misunderstanding, that's all. So, somebody told, there was one person in Bangalore, he was a philosopher, psychologist he was in fact. And having read Swamiji's books, and he was in fact Madhva background. He comes from Madhva background. And he told that, Abba, if this is Shankara's explanation, there was no necessity for Ramanuja tradition and Madhva tradition to criticize Advaita. Because what they criticize has developed later than Shankara. It never existed in Shankara's Bhashyam. So, a major portion, major part of their criticism just doesn't apply to Shankaracharya at all. And what everybody accepts, what is Adhyasa, which is commonly in everybody's experience, same thing Shankara referred. So they would not have, even they would not disagree. They also would have accepted Ramanuja. In fact, Ramanuja explained Brahma is a simple misunderstanding. Of course, he has got his own slightly different explanation. But common thing is misunderstanding something as different. Even Madhva, everybody explained Brahma is something that much. Shankara agrees with that much. Now nothing more, nothing less. There was no necessity for all these unnecessary dispute. But anyway, that's how it happened. If somebody does one mistake, you see in our history, in our Gandhiji, in our all people, also the same thing happened. One fellow took a wrong decision. And that decision, over that again more and more wrong decision, more, then it becomes a big issue. India's partition took place, something else happened, many things, seriously, much more, millions died, much more damage, destruction. Small wrong decision, how much it damages, see. A small decision, whether intentionally, unintentionally, knowingly, unknowingly, innocently or cunningly, we don't know, but if some mistake happens, how the mistake plays havoc with our lives of millions of people. Nations for generations, for centuries, for thousands of years you have to suffer. You see what Columbus did it, how much America for the last 500 years. The real America is suffering. Now the present America is only a superimposition. They will be angry, Americans. I am in India and they are in America, they are not listening to me. Okay, but if they listen, they will be angry with me. I think those who live in America, they won't take my comment. But it is, see, the real America is a old America, ancient America. And then there is a superimposed Adhyastha America. Adhishthana America, Adhyastha America. Anyway, we are familiar with Vedantic terms. We use Vedantic terms alone. The original America is different. And the Adhyastha America alone is known to everybody as America. Okay. It is something like, looks like, Jesus talks of grafting. Have you ever seen grafting? ಅಂಟು ಕಟ್ಟಟಂ ತೆಲುಗು, ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೋ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಒನ್ ಪ್ಲ್ಯಾಂಟ್ something like a pomegranate twig, you plant, you attach to the lemon tree. దానిమ్మ మొక్క, దానిమ్మ కొమ్మను నిమ్మ చెట్టుకి అతికించటం, అంటుకట్టడం. I mean the pomegranate branch you attach to the lemon and you tie it for a few days and afterwards it grows, and that branch develops, yields pomegranate fruits. The remaining tree gives lemons. They just can be grafted like this. So like this, America there is a grafted America upon the original America, and we are seeing the fruits of grafted branch alone. The original trunk is somewhere lying there. It is suppressed, but it is used as a main trunk, and the grafted tree alone is running on. Now what we know is only grafted branch alone, not the original tree. And this is what Bible says. And the Jesus also tells the same thing. Go and graft Christianity in all the world, all over the country. In fact, Columbus is nothing different from Jesus. Columbus is a innocent, we can't say, you can say arrogant also, is an arrogant implementer of what Jesus told. People only blame Columbus and then leave out Jesus. It's a very strange thing. He only aggressive implementer of Jesus. Jesus suggested the same thing. Go and graft everywhere. My Christianity you graft. That's what our fellows are doing. They are building their churches in the temple model. They are taking away our what you call Bharatanatyam for Jesus, and our what you call Karnataka Sangeetam, they are using it, and our acharyas and our gurus and our sannyasis are sleeping because they allow them to do that, graft them. The fellow grafts, and our acharyas are only doing brahmachintanam. They are only doing brahmachintanam, and vyavahara is a mithya for them. Therefore in vyavahara grafting is going on, and they just don't even talk of them. They don't even refer to them. So grafting is going on. Grafting means what? Infiltration. They put Jesus into all our books. They are putting that Jesus is in Veda, Jesus is in Purana, Jesus is in your Smriti. Tomorrow may come there is a Jesus is in Shankara Bhashya, they will say. Okay, they put Jesus in Tulsidas. Everywhere they are putting in Jesus in Valmiki Ramayana, Jesus in Veda Vyasa praised Jesus, and then Jesus has come into temples. In all our habbas, all our celebrations, festivals, they are doing Abhisheka, Tirtha, Prasada, Panchabhisheka, Panchamrita Snana, everything they are applying to Jesus. That means, and Kashaya also, the idiotic Christians, they are wearing Kashaya, and they say that all these things. Now Rathotsava also started, Jesus Rathotsava. What not? This is called grafting. This is what those main culprit, the main villain Jesus himself told. Anyway, Jesus himself didn't exist. Is a mythical person. But the mythical is a highly dangerous mythical person. Because he himself is a grafted. Jesus himself is a grafted in the Bible. Okay. So, now he is grafted. And the people in India, Hinduism is only getting grafted continuously. Hindus are, what are the Hindus doing? They are only doing Brahmachintanam. For them, world doesn't exist. Oh, Kasi. Yeah. The grafting is called Kasi. Okay. Anyway, you have understood anyway. These are all simple English. My English is simpler than even a school boy. Because it's only a 10th class, 9th class, 10th class boy or girl can understand my English. Because my English is only that much. Even I am not a good English speaker. Anyway. So, this is a grafting. So, imposition. Grafting is adhyasa. That is Christian adhyasa. All by Western adhyasa. In fact, both Islam and Christianity only adhyasas only. All countries, the native cultures are adhisthana. Okay. Native cultures all over the world were the pagan cultures, original races. Islam, Christianity are only adhyastas only. All over they go and impose. They subjugate them, they mix with them, they take of all of them, destroy partly and use partly, and then wipe out everything, and they alone sit on that. All over the world is only adhyasa going on. But this adhyasa is different thing. But our Indian Vedantins talk of only adhyatmik adhyasa and other adhyasas. We have discussed worldly instance of adhyasa, that is rope mistaken for snake and the seashell mistaken for silver. These are all worldly instances of adhyasa. Another adhyasa is atmanatma adhyasa. But there is a third adhyasa which is creating havoc of the whole world. Islam Christian adhyasa in the all over the world, in societies, cultures, languages, everything. They are destroying the whole world and religion, societies, civilizations they are destroying. This is another adhyasa nobody is paying attention. We talk of only Rajya Sarpa adhyasa, Atmanatma adhyasa. The third adhyasa, when I talk about, people get irritated. Why this unnecessarily bringing Swamiji? Swamiji is only winning the wrath of all these people. They are terrible people. They will kill Swamiji. Let them kill, doesn't matter. Anyway, I am dead only already. Are people, are Hindus alive now? We are already dead. There is no point if they throw away our dead body. We are already, they have already killed. Like fungus develops on your food. Fungus develops on your food like parasite. Like the grafting. They are imposing and destroying all our original cultures. Original creativity is destroyed. Okay? Once they destroy religion and culture, you see, Europe, America cannot think of anything original. Religiously I am talking. In spirituality, they can't think anything original. Because the original creative thinking, Tattva Vichara, is destroyed. Tattva Vichara is destroyed. Perversions are new perversions develop. Homosexual marriages and etc. All perversions develop. And more homosexuals are created, more eunuchs are created, because these are all artificial creation. This is adhyasa. Okay. Not a natural thing. More and more problems are created. Because once you do impose, then the new things are created. You don't allow the original growth, natural growth from it. So our creativity is destroyed. We all tomorrow in one generation, we all talking Jesus, Jesus is my love and all that thing, oh my God, and tomorrow. Today I am talking Shankara Bhashya, and next generation from the same Karyalaya or by the side of Karyalaya, somebody may occupy and take over and then is talking Jesus, Jesus. And they say at one time there was one person called Sachidananda Swamiji, and next another person called Prakashananda, he was talking of Shankara Bhashya. Today we are talking of Jesus, we have improved. And then if you are sleeping like that, there will be only adhyasa, there won't be adhisthana. Okay, we are removing adhyasa and talking of adhisthana. A time will come, they remove adhisthana and talk of only adhyasa. Okay, if Hindus are sleeping, that's the only will happen. Okay, now the second adhyasa and third adhyasa we'll discuss in the next class. Okay, and then Swamiji's explanation of all of them commonly, that's more important. We'll discuss. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om.